My life didn't really begin until I met Chloe. It was like the sun had finally come out. To give her a home, our home, I worked myself to the bone, saving every penny. Fresh out of college, my salary was a joke, but one thought of Chloe's smiling eyes, the way they curved into little crescents, and I felt like I could conquer the world. We moved into a rundown apartment on the edge of downtown, $600 a month, where the walls always felt damp. To save $3 on the bus fare, I'd walk an hour to the office every day, even under the brutal summer sun. Lunch was always from the greasy spoon downstairs, the cheapest $5 combo. The owner got to know me and would sometimes throw in an extra spoonful of ground beef. That was the highlight of my day. I stretched every dollar until it screamed, building our future one brick at a time. Life was hard, but my heart was full. Until our 5th anniversary. The candlelight flickered, reflecting in her face, which shone brighter than any star. She slid a small, elegant, forest green box across the table. When I opened it, a Rolex lay nestled inside, its face gleaming in the dim light. I figured it was a knockoff, but my head was spinning from the sheer shock of the gesture. A gift from Chloe, even a fake one, was something I'd treasure forever. The next day, I wore it to work, planning to keep the joy tucked away under my cuff. But a sharp-eyed coworker grabbed my wrist. "Holy shit, man. You hit the lottery? That's a Rolex Submariner." I just laughed and waved him off, saying it was a replica, just for fun. He looked at me like I was an idiot, turning the watch over and over in his hands. Finally, he declared, "Replica my ass. The gleam, the polish, the weight. This is the real deal, no doubt about it. Retail on this? At least 15 grand. 15 grand. The words exploded in my head like a thunderclap. My blood ran cold, my hands and feet turning to ice. Was she insane? Where did she get that kind of money? I rushed home in a daze. The apartment we shared suddenly felt alien. Chloe wasn't back yet, but her phone was lying on the couch. The screen lit up with a text notification. The contact name was just Jay. A strange impulse took over. I picked up the phone. My fingers trembled as I tapped on the conversation. "Jay, thanks. He really likes the watch." My vision narrowed. An invisible hand squeezed my heart, so tight I couldn't breathe. Then came the reply. "Jay, don't mention it. That model is so last season." Seemed like a waste to just throw it out. Giving it to him was like recycling trash. Recycling. Trash. In that moment, my world came crashing down. The gift I cherished, the symbol of a love I was killing myself for, was nothing more than garbage he couldn't be bothered to throw away. And I was the garbage man. Before I could even process the humiliation, another message popped up. "Jay, ask your boyfriend if you want a Patek Philippe." Jay, he could work for years and never afford one. If he doesn't want it, I'll just toss it. When it was the first time I had ever touched Chloe's phone, I'd only meant to find the order confirmation, some piece of evidence to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But my trembling thumb accidentally swiped, opening that unread message. A new world, one I had never known existed, but was enough to completely destroy me, unfurled before my eyes without any warning. The sender's profile picture was a glaringly bright red sun. Chloe hadn't saved his name, just that single, sickeningly intimate initial, J. The Rolex I treasured wasn't a gift she'd carefully chosen for me at all. It was just garbage that the sun had casually tossed aside, and I was the happy little trash collector. A $15,000 watch, and to him, it wasn't even worth keeping. My heart sank into a black abyss. I knew it wasn't just about the watch. As if possessed, my fingers scrolled up, moving against my will. Every line of their chat history was a perfectly aimed dart, piercing my heart, leaving me in agony. The man, Julian, treated my girlfriend like his personal assistant. "Jay, my place is a mess. Come over and clean it up." "Jay, bought that mango passion fruit tart you like from Bell's. Swing by the office." "Jay, go to my apartment and grab me a change of clothes. The underwear and shirts are in the bottom drawer, you know the spot. Just give them to my assistant." "Underwear, you know the spot." The words made my breath catch in my throat. Then I saw the messages about me. No, not me. The pathetic placeholder they called your boyfriend. "Jay, saw your birthday post on Instagram. You should probably throw out your boyfriend's jacket. His taste is atrocious. Jay, tell him to get his act together. That haircut is a disaster, and the acne on his face is making me sick." And Chloe's replies were the final torture, dragging me down to the deepest level of hell. "Chloe, you made me post that. You're not mad, are you?" "Chloe, he's always staying up late, won't listen to me. Not everyone is as disciplined as you, with those muscles to show for it. Winky face muscles to show for it." The phrase was branded onto my brain. Were they that close? "Chloe, Send me some of the brands you like. I'll try to get him to wear them. He's just a slob, always trying to save a buck. He can't compare to you. A slob. Can't compare. In front of that man, the girl I held in the palm of my hand became a fawning, pathetic kitten. Every message from him was answered. Every word from her was meant to please. I felt like I was being choked. A thick wave of humiliation, so nauseating it made me gag, rushed from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. I forced myself to keep scrolling. Last Friday, the 12th, that blinding sun icon lit up again. Jay, be my date tonight. Have a banquet. Need to entertain some clients. It was an order, not a request. And Chloe's reply made my blood freeze solid. Chloe, kitten has received her orders. It was followed by a sticker of a little cat, wagging its tail, the very picture of eager submission. Kitten, the person I cherished more than anything, was just a trained pet to someone else. My heart was being shredded by invisible claws. The timeline jumped to the day after the banquet. Jay, I was drunk last night. I'll take responsibility. My heart plummeted as if I'd been dropped into a bottomless crevasse. Chloe's reply followed immediately, every word a new assault on my sanity. Chloe, Julian, it's okay. I was more than satisfied. Satisfied? She actually said she was satisfied. Chloe, what happened? Don't you dare use the word responsibility. You did it because you love me. My greatest wish in life is to be with you. I stared at those words, so pathetic they were practically crawling on the floor, and felt a bitter, absurd laugh bubbling in my chest. She had romanticized a drunken one-night stand into some long-awaited act of profound love. And I, her actual boyfriend, was the superfluous joke in their great love story. Jay, you're so full of sweet talk, kid. A casual, dismissive line, dripping with condescension and mockery. But Chloe reacted as if she'd been granted a divine favor. Chloe, I was a little too eager last night. I ruined your shirt. But you ripped my dress, so we're even. Still, tell me how much the shirt was. I'll pay you back. My vision swam, and my stomach churned. She was flirting with him, using a playful, almost childish tone. Jay, it's expensive. You sure you want to pay me back? Jay, forget it. You don't have to. Save the money to buy your boyfriend some new clothes. That last message was a sharp, ringing slap across my face. It burned. My hand was shaking so badly I couldn't hold the phone anymore. The light from the screen stabbed at my eyes. Suddenly, a thought struck me. I shakily backed out of the chat and tapped on Chloe's profile. In the 5 years I'd known her, her bio had never changed. The line I once found so romantic now felt like a death sentence. You will always be my brilliant, shining sun, lighting up my world. The sun. So the sun she was talking about was never me. It was him, the man who ground me into the dirt and treated me like trash. To my mind went blank, like I'd just taken a fist to the face. Memories I'd buried in the back of my mind came roaring back, claws out. The sun, that sun had risen long ago, back in high school. In high school, Chloe was the perfect student in the eyes of teachers and parents. Quiet, pretty, popular, but she never dated anyone. Until one day, she was caught knitting a scarf during English class. The teacher snatched it from her. In the corner of the scarf, embroidered in red thread, was a searingly passionate phrase. The teacher's face turned purple with rage. She read the words out loud, her voice dripping with scorn for the entire class to hear. Chloe, have you no shame? She shrieked. Knitting a scarf in my class? And embroidering this disgusting filth on it. Do you have any self-respect? Without another word, the teacher tore the unfinished scarf to shreds right in front of her. In that moment, Chloe, who was always so mild-mannered, completely lost it and started screaming back at the teacher. It ended with her parents being called to the school and her being forced to write a 3,000-word apology. Her parents held her head down, forcing her to apologize. They called her shameless, a disgrace for throwing herself at a boy. They even slapped her several times. Her cheeks swelled up, and a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. But she just clenched her jaw, her neck rigid with defiance. What's wrong with loving someone? She yelled. I'm not hurting anybody. Later, I found her in an empty student lounge. She was crouched in a corner, using the faint light from the window to painstakingly stitch the shredded scarf back together. It was the first and only time I ever saw her cry. I'd had a crush on her since we were kids, but I only ever dared to follow her from the shadows. When I found out her heart already belonged to someone else, someone she loved that fiercely, I had decided to give up, to bury my pathetic feelings for good. But then, out of nowhere, she appeared in front of me. She looked at me with an almost indifferent gaze and asked, "Do you want to go out?" In that moment, I naively believed she had finally let go of the person she couldn't have. I was so desperate for even a fraction of her affection that, knowing it was probably poison, I drank it down anyway. I said yes. 5 years had passed. I had almost forgotten about that. Could a person really love someone else with that much devotion for so long? The sound of a shower was still running in the bathroom. Chloe was in there, washing away the traces of another man. This time, I was determined to get to the bottom of everything. I walked into the bedroom, pulled open her drawer, and took out the ornate journal she kept. She'd told me it was for recording all the beautiful moments in her life. The answers had to be in there. I opened it, my hands shaking. Every word, every receipt she had taped to the pages was a new stab to my heart, leaving me bleeding and broken. I'm so crazy about Jay, I think I'm going to lose my mind. We had the most incredible night. I want to remember this feeling forever. Is a 10-year age gap that important? I would die for him. I'll love him with my life, whether he's old or sick. I'll take care of him forever. If he dies, I'll die with him. He looks so handsome when he's playing poker. Jay has a girlfriend. She's not even pretty. What does he see in her? Jay told me not to love him, but I can't live without loving him. I love him more than my own life. I read on, sentence by sentence, my heart feeling like it was being slowly flayed. If I get a boyfriend, maybe he'll finally let me get close to him. I don't care what it takes, as long as I can be a little closer to him. That Liam guy is kind of dope. Seems easy to fool. And his smile. It looks just like Jay's. Liam, my name, written by her hand, was dripping with such cruel calculation. Besides Jay, it doesn't matter who I'm with. I'll just pick him. He's the one who looks the most like him. Crash. I could almost hear my world shattering. The blood in my veins froze solid, a torrent of ice flooding my entire body. 5 years. We had been together for 5 whole years. And it was all just a meticulously planned deception. I once thought the day I started dating Chloe was the happiest day of my life. Joe. Apathetic, Gutrenchingjoke. It was all a one-man show. It was all fake. All of it. I gasped for air, my lips moving uselessly. Hot tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. I bit my lip so hard I could taste the metallic tang of blood. Just then, the shower shut off. I shoved the incriminating journal back into the drawer. A pair of soft arms wrapped around my waist from behind. Her damp hair brushed against my shoulder, carrying the familiar, sweet scent I had once been so captivated by. Now it felt like a venomous snake coiling around my neck, strangling me. My body went rigid. Chloe pressed her cheek against my back, her voice sickly sweet, innocent, and alluring. Liam, I miss you so much today. Did you miss me? I didn't say anything. I just felt a gaping hole where my heart used to be. She kept cooing at me in that same cloying tone, sweet and deadly. God, the irony. 5 years, and I'd been drowning in this fake sweetness, never once suspecting a thing. Chloe, I finally found my voice. It was dry, rough like sandpaper. The accusations were boiling in my throat, about to burst out. Just then, a distinctive ringtone shattered the silence. It was Coldplay's A Sky Full of Stars. She once told me it was her favorite song because the title reminded her of him, of Jay. In a split second, she let go of me as if she'd been stung, turning around with a clumsy, almost frantic motion. She glanced at the caller ID, and her pupils constricted. When she answered, she scurried into the bedroom like she was hiding from something and slammed the door shut. 5 minutes felt like an eternity. The door opened. She came out, her usual gentle expression back in place. Liam, my boss just called. There's a problem with the venue for the performance. I need to go check it out right away. She changed her clothes at lightning speed, her lies so clumsy she couldn't even be bothered to make it believable. Before she left, she reached out, just like she always did, and squeezed my cold cheek. Then she stood on her toes and planted a feather-light kiss on my lips. Be gone, okay? I'll be back soon. She smiled so sweet, so flawless. I'll make your favorite lasagna for you tomorrow. The door clicked shut. The world fell silent again. I stood there, frozen like a puppet with its strings cut. I don't know how much time passed before I snapped out of it. A wild, desperate idea seized control of my mind. Without even changing out of my slippers, I bolted down the stairs and silently followed her into the night. The cab she hailed ran a couple of red lights, screeching to a halt in front of a high-end restaurant called the Gilded Lantern. Sometime while I was inside, a torrential downpour had started. Cold raindrops pelted my body, but I didn't feel a thing. From a distance, I saw her. The same Chloe who was always so put together, so calm in front of me, now looked as frazzled as a deserter. She didn't even have time to open an umbrella before sprinting under the restaurant's awning. A man was sitting there. The moment I saw him, my breath caught. Sharp, defined brows, hair perfectly styled with gel, a white dress shirt slightly softened by the rain. He was devastatingly handsome. It was a sight that broke my heart. He looked exactly like the descriptions in her journal. Her beloved Jay. The man had a cigarette between his fingers, the red tip glowing and fading in the rainy night. He radiated a decadent, drunken aura. Chloe rushed to his side and, to my astonishment, quickly took off her own jacket. Then, she wrapped the jacket, still warm from her own body, tightly around him, reverently, as if she were protecting a priceless treasure. She herself stood shivering in the wind and rain in just a thin blouse. The man leaned against her, his eyes hazy with drink, his voice a low, lazy rasp. "You got here fast, kid." Chloe's face was ghostly pale in the streetlight as she struggled to help him up. "I'm taking you home." The long street was a river of black, washed clean by the rain. Chloe let the icy downpour soak her to the bone as she carefully supported him. I could hear the anguish in her voice, a level of humility I had never heard from her before. "Julian, please don't drink so much next time. It hurt me to see you like this." The 3 words she said, "It hurts me," struck me like a physical blow. She had never shown me that kind of tenderness. Whenever I had too much to drink, she would just pinch her nose and tell me to stay away, disgusted by the smell. The man let out a short, derisive laugh, full of contempt. "Who are you to me? Mind your own business." As he spoke, his lips brushed against her earlobe, an act both intimate and cruel. The jacket slipped from his shoulders. Without a moment's hesitation, Chloe bent down, picked it up, and clutched it to her chest again, as if it were a sacred relic. The man suddenly asked another question. "Where's your boyfriend?" My heart stopped. "At home," she answered instantly. "It's the middle of the night, and you came running out in the rain like this. Isn't he worried?" In the next second, I heard the cruelest words I have ever heard in my life. "Who cares about him?" Boom. The world exploded in my ears, leaving only a deafening ringing. Who cares about him? So that was it. Our 5 years, to her, were nothing more than those 4 casual, dismissive words. The man seemed amused. He drawled, "You know, kid, maybe we should just call it quits. If your boyfriend finds out, he'll kill you." Chloe stopped dead in her tracks. She looked like a cornered animal whose territory had been invaded. She shoved him against a tree trunk on the side of the road. "Say that again. I dare you." Her voice was laced with a frantic, desperate edge. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him fiercely on the jaw, a grinding, possessive kiss that was more about staking a claim than affection. It wasn't a kiss. It was a brand, seared in desperation. Rain mixed with tears, I couldn't tell whose, streamed down their entangled faces. After a long moment, she let him go. As if nothing had happened, she gently draped the jacket over his shoulders again. The man finished his cigarette. He looked at her, a deeply mocking smile playing on his lips. Then he took the cigarette, its tip still glowing, and shoved it directly into her mouth. My pupils contracted violently. "Chloe, aren't you pathetic?" His voice was ice, each word a slow, torturous cut. "You love me that much?" Chloe didn't flinch. She didn't fight back. She just bowed her head, lower and lower, letting the humiliation swallow her whole. In the rainy night, her silence was the only answer needed. The curtain of rain blurred their figures into a single, indistinct shadow. I was too far away, the sound of the downpour drowning everything out. I couldn't hear her reply, but I could guess. No, I didn't have to guess. Chloe was still holding him up, as if he were her entire world. The man was a dead weight, practically hanging off her, yet still restless. I heard his demonic voice slice through the rain, finding its mark in my eardrum with perfect accuracy. "Chloe, I'm 35. My family's pressuring me to get married, but I don't want to be tied down. All they really want is an heir." His tone was as casual as if he were discussing the weather. "So how about it? You have a kid for me. As for that boyfriend of yours." He paused, drawing out the words with malicious glee. "I'll give him $1 million to shut him up. He only makes, what, $3,000 a month? $1 million would take him years to earn. Look at him, so pathetic, pinching every penny. You call that a man? He's a cheapskate." Every word was a public execution of my dignity. I stared at Chloe, praying she would fight back, praying she would defend me, praying she would slap that man across the face. But she only replied with a soft whisper. Her voice was as gentle as a feather, but it was enough to bring my world crashing down. "Okay, but I don't want the money." She lifted her face, gazing at the man with a look of pure obsession, her voice filled with a sick, ecstatic joy. "If we have a child, you'll never be able to get rid of me. Julian, I'm going to be with you forever." Wow. So this is what love becomes when it's pushed to the extreme. Madness. I couldn't listen anymore. My heart felt like it had been squeezed until it burst, and I could no longer feel it beating. A sharp, piercing pain shot through the sole of my foot. I looked down. At some point, one of my slippers had fallen off. A sharp piece of broken glass was embedded deep in my foot. Warm blood mixed with the cold rainwater pooling on the ground. Like a soulless puppet, I limped away barefoot and flagged down a cab. The neon lights outside the window blurred into streaks of shattered color. I didn't go home. The place I had called home was gone. Under the harsh fluorescent lights of his apartment, my friend Alex's smile froze the moment he saw me. Jesus Christ, what the hell happened to you? He was shocked by my appearance and yanked me inside. I was shivering uncontrollably, my teeth chattering. It wasn't from the soaked clothes, but from a cold that seeped out from my very bones. I couldn't speak. Alex brought me a towel and a bottle of whiskey, shoving them into my hands. The liquor burned like a knife all the way down. After a long time, I finally found my voice. It was dry and hoarse. Chloe, she's cheating on me. Fueled by the whiskey, I told him everything I'd seen that night in the rain. When I finished, Alex was shaking with rage. He slammed his fist on the table. That cheating whore, he roared. She played you for all these years. I'm going to call some guys right now, and we'll teach her a lesson. Who the hell does she think she is? I reached out and grabbed his arm, holding him back. My voice was terrifyingly calm. Don't. I'll handle this myself. Alex froze, turning to look at me with a mix of shock and confusion. What are you going to do? I stared out the window into the endless night and slowly curled my lips into a smile. It was a smile that didn't reach my eyes, a smile as cold as ice. These 5 years, I said. She owes me an explanation. For I didn't sleep a wink. As soon as the sun was up, I took the morning off and went to the hospital. I had a doctor stitch up the cut on my foot, then went back to my company. No matter how chaotic and angry I felt inside, work was still the foundation of my survival. That afternoon, we had a design meeting with the client's representative. He would be the one to make the final decision on the design proposals. But when I stood at the door of the conference room, I froze. The man sitting at the head of the table, casually flipping through the documents, was him. The nameplate on the table was clear, Julian Vance. How ironic. Our eyes met across the room. His expression was completely neutral, as if last night had never happened. He didn't recognize me. Or rather, he didn't care enough to. I clenched my jaw, forcing the tidal wave of rage and hatred back down. With a calmness that felt foreign even to myself, I delivered my presentation. He said, his finger tapping lightly on my design. This one is the most outstanding. I never expected him to choose mine. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt like a carefully laid trap. However, he said, his tone shifting as a playful smirk touched his lips, some of the details need to be changed. Okay, I forced the word out through gritted teeth. It felt like swallowing hot coals. Those changes took all night. I worked until my eyes were blurry and everything had a double image. The colleague working late with me finally couldn't take it anymore and started complaining. We're slaving away here and Mr. Client is living it up, partying with a bunch of models at some club. My heart clenched. How do you know? I follow his Instagram. My colleague held his phone out to me. Look at his story. This guy knows how to party. Probably has a different girl for every night of the week. But I gotta say, the one he's with tonight is a real knockout. I'm so jealous I could die. On the phone screen, a short, flashy video was playing. There, in the middle of the neon lights and pulsing music, pressed intimately against Julian Vance, kissing him passionately, was Chloe. Just an hour ago, she had sent me a text. Chloe, hey honey, last-minute business trip. The company just sprang it on me. Chloe, my boss is such a jerk. I didn't even have time to pack anything. Chloe, but then I think about saving up for our house, and this trip pays really well, so I guess I can deal with it. Chloe, I'm not going to be able to cuddle you tonight. I'm so sad. Chloe, miss your smell. She ended it with a pathetic teary-eyed emoji. Every word was a performance, casting herself as the loving, dedicated girlfriend working hard for our future. And the reality? She was with Julian Vance in a loud nightclub, wrapped in a passionate embrace, living it up. My hands and feet went numb. My heart felt like it was being crushed by an invisible hand, the pain so intense I couldn't breathe. But I knew that now, more than ever, I had to keep it together. My job was the only dignity I had left. I sent the design, the one I had poured my entire night into, to Julian's email. Outside, the sky was bright. A new day. For me, it felt like the beginning of the end. At the morning meeting, the client's team was there again. Julian was at the head of the table, still smelling faintly of alcohol, his handsome face etched with the weariness and impatience of a night of indulgence. He carelessly flipped through my designs, the product of my blood, sweat, and tears. Finally, he stopped, his thin lips parting to utter two words. "This is garbage." The cold words wrapped around my heart like a poison vine. He didn't even look at me, as if I were invisible. "You can't do it. Find someone who can and redo it." I understood. I understood everything. He did it on purpose. He chose my design, made me work all night, and then humiliated me in the most public way possible just to watch me break. In his eyes, I was no different from an ant, something to be toyed with and then carelessly crushed under his shoe. And the malice didn't end there. He had barely left the conference room when my boss called me into his office. His face was pale, his forehead beaded with sweat. "Pack your things and get out." I froze, my mind a complete blank. "What do you mean? Liam, are you an idiot?" My boss screamed, his voice shaking with fear and anger. "You can't even handle a simple design. Well, why do you have to work here?" "Because of that trash you submitted, mister. Vance almost canceled our contract. That's a multi-million-dollar project. We could sell you and still not cover the loss. And you have a nerve to ask me what's wrong. Don't be an eyesore. Just get the hell out of my sight." He was trembling with rage, grabbing a stack of papers from his desk and hurling them at me, looking like he wanted to tear me apart with his bare hands. I stood there, motionless. So this was power. Julian Vance didn't even have to lift a finger. With a simple flick of his wrist, I had lost everything. As I left, my boss looked at me as if I were a pile of toxic waste, his eyes filled with sharp, cutting ridicule. "You'd better pray I never see you again," his voice dripped with venom, "or I'll make sure you never work in this city again." I carried the cardboard box that held my career and my dignity and walked home like a zombie. The moment I pushed open the door, I froze. The woman who was supposed to be on a business trip, Chloe, was home. "Liam, why are you home so early?" When she saw me, a flash of panic crossed her eyes, so fast it was almost an illusion. I said nothing, just stared at her as if she were a stranger. She immediately looked away, her guilt palpable as she started explaining. "The company arranged a last-minute trip last night. I thought I'd be there another day, but it wrapped up this morning." But the smell clinging to her, a mixture of alcohol and another man's signature cologne, was a silent slap across my face. It was obvious she just climbed out of Julian Vance's bed. My stomach churned. I couldn't be bothered to call her out on her pathetic lie. I just asked coldly, "Just got back and you're already going out again?" She was dressed to the nines, looking bright and beautiful, as if she were heading to a gala. She avoided my gaze and nodded. "Yeah, I have a few things to take care of at the office. Your office seems to have a lot for you to do lately." My voice was devoid of any warmth. She seemed to sense my coldness and immediately forced a sweet smile. Like countless times before, she wrapped her arms around mine, swaying gently in a practiced, coquettish way. Her soft lips pressed against my cheek. "Isn't that a good thing? It means they value me. I'll be getting a promotion soon. Liam, just be patient a little longer. Once I get promoted, we won't have to struggle so hard to save for a house. And you won't have to be so frugal anymore." Every word of the beautiful future she painted was a needle in my heart. I couldn't stand it anymore. I shoved her away, fighting back the nausea rising in my throat. I stared at her and calmly reminded her, "Did you forget? Your parents are flying in this afternoon to discuss our wedding." The smile on her face froze instantly. It was clear she had completely forgotten about this major event. The next second, she slipped back in her charming persona, shaking my arm, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Oh my God, look at me. I'm so forgetful. Liam, I really do have a very important meeting at work. How about you go pick up my parents for me? Please, honey, for me." Her face was a mask of calculated charm. Watching her self-satisfied performance, my heart turned to ice, but a slow smile spread across my lips. "Sure, you're going to regret this." 5. I took a cab to the airport alone. The city sped by outside the window, a blur, just like my ridiculous past. The bleeding hole that Julian and Chloe had torn in my chest had stopped bleeding. All that was left was a cold, empty void. Her parents and her brother, Ethan, were all there. Her dad, Frank, still had that same arrogant, condescending look on his face. He looked at me like he was appraising a cheap piece of merchandise, full of criticism and disdain. He thought I had sullied his beautiful, precious daughter. The moment he saw me, he shoved all their luggage, suitcases, carry-ons, shopping bags, into my arms. The heavy bag slammed into my chest with a dull thud, but I felt no pain. "Where's my daughter? Why didn't she come to pick us up?" he demanded, as if I owed him $1 million. "Just looking at you pisses me off. My daughter is so beautiful. How did she end up with someone like you? If our grandkids get your ugly genes, I won't acknowledge them." His harsh words, which once would have cut me to the core, now only stirred a faint sense of pity. "Dad, that's enough," Ethan said, frowning at his father. I didn't bother arguing with people whose world was about to be shattered. I just raised my hand expressionlessly and hailed a cab. As the car pulled away from the curb, Ethan looked out at the unfamiliar streets, a confused frown deepening on his face. Liam, this isn't the way to your place. I looked at my own cold, unfamiliar face in the rearview mirror and spoke slowly. We're not going home. We're going to find Chloe first. Chloe must have forgotten that when we were crazy in love, we had shared our phone locations with each other. She had said it was the sweetest chain binding us together, so she could always find me. Funny, I could always find her too. On my phone screen, the little red that represented her was blinking brightly at the most luxurious hotel in Crestwood, the Avalon Grand, a place that cost thousands a night. I knew she and Julian were in there, enjoying the fruits of her promotion. My finger, just a few minutes earlier, had already dialed 911. The reason for the call? An illegal party. As the taxi pulled up to the glittering entrance of the Avalon Grand, the piercing wail of police sirens grew closer, screaming through the streets. I had timed it perfectly. The show was just beginning. Chloe's parents and brother had just gotten out of the car when a group of police officers stormed into the hotel. A crowd of onlookers instantly gathered at the entrance, pointing and whispering. Soon, a group of disheveled, frantic men and women were being escorted out by the police. I spotted Chloe in the crowd immediately, her face a mask of horror. She was still wearing the dress I bought her, but now it was wrinkled like a dish rag. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smudged. She looked like a drowned rat. As she was being pushed into a police car, her eyes finally found mine through the crowd. In that instant, her beautiful pupils constricted in terror and disbelief. Liam, she shrieked, her voice raw. Let me explain. This is all a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. Before she could finish, the car door slammed shut with a deafening thud, and the car sped away, crushing all her excuses under its wheels. Behind me, there was a dead silence. I turned around slowly. The faces of Chloe's parents and brother were as black as thunderclouds, especially her dad. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a bloodless, stunned humiliation. What's going on? He stammered, his lips trembling. I looked at him, a cold smile touching my lips. You don't get it? My voice was calm, devoid of any emotion, as I tore away their last shred of dignity. Your precious, beautiful daughter, the one you're so proud of, was just arrested for cheating on me at a sex party. The air in the police station was cold and oppressive. I sat on a hard bench with Chloe's parents and her brother, Ethan. Her father's once arrogant face was as gray as old newspaper. Her mother wept silently beside him, her body trembling. Time ticked by on the drab wall clock, each second a slow torture for them. I, however, felt perfectly calm. This 3-hour ordeal was just the first appetizer I was serving them. When Chloe was finally brought out, it was as if all the light had been drained from her. The beautiful face that had once captivated me was now just a mask of ruin and despair. She couldn't look anyone in the eye, her head bowed low, looking like a stray dog with nowhere to go. A flash of bright red cut through the night outside the station. Julian Vance's figure darted past, slipping into a flashy red Lamborghini. The roar of the engine was an unapologetic taunt as he sped away. He got away so easily, so cleanly. The other men and women who had been arrested were still being held, but Chloe had been bailed out early by her father, who had clearly pulled some strings. The cost, I imagined, was not small. Ethan's face was livid, his chest heaving. Smack! A sharp, clear slap echoed through the quiet night. He hit Chloe across the face, so hard she stumbled. Have you no shame? Are you that desperate that you have to do something so disgusting? You've disgraced our entire family. Ethan's roar was strained, on the verge of breaking. He roughly grabbed Chloe's arm and dragged her in front of me. Liam, it's my fault as her brother for not teaching her better. She was foolish. She made a mistake when it comes to men and women. I apologize to you on her behalf. He tried to force Chloe's head down. Hit her. Yell at her. Do whatever you want. She's the one who wronged you. We know that. I didn't even bother to glance at the pathetic mess on the floor. Let's just go home first, I said flatly, pulling open the car door and getting in. The atmosphere in the car was colder than a freezer. Back at the apartment that was supposed to be our future home, the irony was suffocating. On the couch, Chloe and I sat across from each other. She was like a soulless doll, not even daring to lift her head. Today was supposed to be the day her family came to discuss our wedding plans. Now, it had turned into a farcical trial. Seeing her lifeless state, Ethan's anger flared up again. Smack! Another ringing slap. Apologize to Liam, he commanded. It was as if the two slaps finally shocked her back to reality. She sniffled, tears and snot smearing her face, a truly pathetic sight. Her body went limp, and she slid off the couch, slowly, humiliatingly, kneeling before me. Her hand, trembling, reached for mine. Liam, it's all a misunderstanding, really. I just want to get something from Mr. Vance. I didn't do anything, I just got caught up in it. The police made a mistake. Her voice was hoarse, full of lies and desperation. A wave of nausea washed over me. I violently shook her hand off as if I'd touched something filthy. Chloe, my voice was as cold as ice. Do you think I'm an idiot? Under the shocked gazes of her family, I stood up and walked into the bedroom without a word. When I came back out, I was holding the cold, gleaming Rolex. I threw the watch, heavy with all my hatred, right at her face. The color instantly drained from Chloe's face, leaving it as white as a sheet of paper. I spit out the words coldly. A $15,000 watch. It would take us 2 years to save for that. My voice was quiet, but it was a poison blade, stabbing into everyone's heart. Your precious Julian is certainly generous with me. I slowly crouched down to her level, my eyes locking with hers. The chill in my gaze could have frozen hell over. My fingertips lifted her trembling chin, forcing her to look at me. Chloe, after lying to me for so long, did you ever feel even a shred of guilt? She just trembled, biting her lip, unable to say a word. Her silence was the loudest answer of all. Suddenly, I laughed. The sound rumbled from my chest, low and hoarse, filled with endless self-mockery and sorrow. So that was it. 5 years of my life, my whole heart, all fed to the dogs. All the anger, the bitterness, the pain, it all erupted in that moment, shattering the last of my control like a dam breaking. Why? I screamed, grabbing her by the shoulders, shaking her. Chloe's father couldn't watch anymore, his face contorted with pain. You let her go. You think you can hit my daughter? Before he could finish, Ethan grabbed him, holding him back firmly. Dad, stay out of this. Ethan's voice was cold and resolute. My eyes were bloodshot. I slapped her beautiful face again and again, until it was covered in a crisscross of red marks. The face I had once been obsessed with was now swollen and pathetic, none of its former beauty visible. Looking at the mess I had made, the hatred in my heart didn't lessen. Instead, a sharper, more bitter irony washed over me. I couldn't help but laugh, laughing so hard that tears started to well up in my eyes. You know, the fact that we ended up like this. It's actually my fault, too. I let her go, looking down at her from above. I was the one who was blind. I fell for your pretty face, not knowing there was a venomous snake underneath. All I wanted was to be with you. If I could go back in time, I swear I would have pushed you two together myself. You and Julian Vance. A match made in heaven. Truly perfect for each other. Every word was like a knife twisting in her heart. Chloe clutched her burning face, her voice a raw, broken whisper. Liam, don't say that. Just as she spoke, Ethan let out a shocked cry, his voice cracking. Julian Vance? You're saying the person you were with was Julian Vance. 7 Julian Vance. The name exploded like a bomb among Chloe's family. It was only then that I realized they hadn't gotten a clear look at him at the hotel. He had kept his face covered. But now, learning the man's identity, the reactions of Ethan and Chloe's parents were 100 times more intense than my own. It turned out that long before my story began, theirs was already a melodrama filled with its own shocking twists. Julian was a full 10 years older than Chloe. Their families had once been incredibly close. When he was in college, Chloe was just a middle schooler with pigtails. You almost died for that guy. Ethan's eyes were suddenly red-rimmed, his fingers shaking as he pointed at Chloe. You were at that bar, trying to cover for him, and you almost got assaulted by those thugs. If someone hadn't called the cops, your life would have been ruined. And what did he do? He turned around and started hooking up with the gang leader's older sister, running off with her. Later, when he lost everything gambling, you stole all the money from our parents' savings to give to him. That was the money Mom and Dad worked their asses off for over a decade. Their goddamn life savings. And him? He took the money, blew it all, and spent the rest on other women. When we said we were going to press charges, what did you do? You took a razor blade to your wrist and threatened to kill yourself if we got involved. Ethan was so agitated he was practically hopping, a grown man with tears welling in his red eyes. Chloe, did he put some kind of spell on you? What is so special about that lowlife that you're willing to let him destroy you? Will you only be happy when you're dead? Sure, Julian is handsome, but has he ever once treated you with any real affection? He just sees you as a toy. I'm begging you, sis, wake up. Every word was a heart-wrenching accusation, lashing at Chloe's conscience. But she just kept her head down, a lifeless puppet. Not a single word. Her silence was the most brutal confession. I stood to the side, an outsider watching a family drama that was years overdue. What I thought was 5 years of deep love was just a ridiculous interlude in her long, tangled history with another man. I was the outsider. Thinking back on my 5 years with Chloe, those warm, happy moments that I thought were my entire world. Pathetic. So pathetic. It wasn't until the name Julian Vance, like a rusty key, unlocked her sealed past that I finally understood. She had only ever given me the calm after the storm. The kind of all-consuming, incinerating love. She had already given that to someone else. The fire in my chest had long since gone out, leaving behind nothing but cold ashes and a vast, empty sense of hopelessness. Chloe, it's not wrong to love someone, to throw yourself at him, to be willing to die for him. That's your choice. But you never, ever should have dragged me into your mess. My voice was as still as a stagnant pond. Is my love that cheap in your eyes? I was innocent in all of this. For 5 whole years, I was like a blindfolded clown pushed onto a stage, performing my heart out. What did I do wrong? All I did was fall in love with someone. Why did you have to bully me like this? Lie to me like this? She shook her head violently, tears mixing with the red marks on her face. No, it's not like that, she cried, trying to defend herself. These 5 years, my feelings for you weren't fake. I wanted to marry you, to grow old with you, all of that was real. Liam, in my heart, you're just as important as he is. My heart seized. The heart I thought had already been shattered into dust was ground into an even finer powder. So that's all I ever was. A substitute. Seeing my silence, she frantically held up 3 fingers to the ceiling, a mixture of madness and sincerity in her eyes. I love you, Liam. I would walk through fire for you. If I'm lying, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. Her gaze was terrifyingly sincere, but she would never understand that a person's heart is only so big. It can't possibly hold 2 people. It doesn't work that way. I looked at her calmly, as if she were a total stranger. Since we started working, we've saved $20,000. We'll split it, $10,000 each. I paid the rent on this apartment. There's 1 month left on the lease. Pack your things and get out. From this moment on, you and I are done. Chloe's eyes widened in horror. She lunged forward to grab my hand, babbling incoherently, trying to get me to stay. I shook her off in disgust. Without another glance at her, I walked into the bedroom. Then, I started throwing out everything that belonged to her, one piece at a time. Oh, and there's something else you don't know, I said, looking at her, a cold smirk on my lips. Your precious Julian messed with me, humiliated me, and got me fired. I'm not the kind of person who just takes things lying down. He treated me like that. So, of course, I had to return the favor. My voice was like poison, dripping into her ear. A little while ago, I sent an email to his boss and to yours. By now, the executives at both your companies should know all about your little group activities. As for how they'll handle it, well, that's not my problem. Chloe's pupils constricted, cold sweat dripping down her forehead. Her face was ashen. Liam, whatever you do to me, I deserve it, she stammered, scrambling across the floor to grab my pant leg. But Julian, he's worked so hard to get where he is. I'm begging you, please, just retract the email. Please. She was so frantic she could barely speak. And then, with a sickening thud, she bowed her head to the floor, utterly, pathetically debased. Before I could respond, Ethan exploded. He was shaking with rage, pointing at his sister on the floor. Chloe, are you trying to kill me? He roared. Even now, you're still defending that animal. My heart was already numb. Her actions stirred nothing in me. Piles of her belongings grew in the center of the living room. The last thing left was a calendar hanging on the wall. On it, we had meticulously written out a list of 100 things we were going to do together after graduation. Number 1, buy a house that belongs only to us. Number 2, have a daughter who is as cute as you. Number 3, go to Hawaii for our wedding photos. Number 4, get our driver's licenses and travel the world. 100 items, a blueprint for our most beautiful dreams. In front of Chloe, I reached up, tore the calendar from the wall, and with a single, violent rip, tore it to shreds. It was as if her last thread of sanity snapped. She lunged at me like a wild animal. She fell to her knees on the cold floor, frantically gathering the scraps of paper, cradling them in her hands as if they were priceless treasures. The scene was painfully familiar. I suddenly remembered 5 years ago, in that abandoned student lounge at school. She had knelt on the floor, just like this, carefully holding the dirty, trampled scarf she had knitted for Julian Vance. So this was the second time I had seen her cry for a man. I looked down, the last bit of warmth fading from my eyes. Get out. In the end, Chloe left. Her brother, Ethan, practically had to drag her out by force. The door slammed shut, and the world fell silent. In the empty apartment, it was just me and the wreckage. I stared into the darkness, feeling completely drained, and collapsed onto the sofa with a long, heavy sigh. The space in my chest where my heart was supposed to be should have been aching, torn apart. It was 5 years of my life, a love I thought would last forever. But now, there was only a hollow numbness. I suppose I should be grateful. I had escaped the swamp of what I thought was love before I completely drowned. It was a chance to start over. Everything would be okay. For the next 3 months, I didn't rush to find another job. I needed time to clean out the rot, the decay that had taken root inside me. One weekend afternoon, my friend Alex showed up, dragging a huge suitcase and holding the leash of a goofy, happy golden retriever. He tossed the suitcase in a corner, announcing that he was worried I'd be lonely living by myself. I knew the truth. He was afraid I'd do something stupid. The dog, whose name was Buddy, made himself right at home, sniffing every corner of my apartment before plopping down at my feet and rubbing his furry head against my leg. I scratched his head and said to Alex, "You don't have to worry about me. I'm fine on my own." He was rummaging through my fridge for beer. Without turning around, he scoffed. "Who the hell is worried about you? I just wanted a place where I could drink whenever I want. Is that a problem?" "No, of course not," I said with a small smile. The frozen lake in my heart seemed to crack, just a little. Besides walking Buddy, Alex's favorite pastime was getting wings. He had a philosophy. There's nothing a good plate of wings can't fix. If one doesn't work, have two. All the unspoken words of comfort and sympathy were melted away in the sizzle of fried chicken and the chill of cold beer. He took me to his regular spot, a dive bar on the corner. The owner was a talkative guy, the place thick with the smell of smoke and grease. Every time we went, we'd order 3 beers, no more, no less. Alex said everything comes in threes. Once you get past the third, it's time to turn the page. We just sit there, listening to the owner spin yarns and watching people come and go. Eating wings, drinking beer. Time seemed to slow down. The sharp edges of my wounds seemed to soften in that slow, hazy atmosphere. Sometimes, the smoke in the dive bar got to be too much, and we'd go somewhere else. There was a lounge on the corner with a great vibe and a cool bartender. After a few visits, I got to know the owner. Her name was Stella. She was a witty, incredibly charming woman with a worldly wisdom in her eyes. She could make you laugh until your sides hurt with just a few words. Occasionally, she'd bring her own drink over and chat with us for a bit. She'd joke about setting us up with some of her beautiful single friends. Tonight, after a few rounds, Stella comped our drinks again. I had lost count of how many times she'd done it. As I watched her walk away, her hips swaying, Alex, who had been drinking in silence, finally nudged me with his elbow. His voice was a low whisper, full of teasing. "Liam, have you noticed? I think Stella's into you." I just shook my head, a bitter smile on my lips. Alex let out an exasperated TSK and leaned in closer. "She might as well have 'I like you' tattooed on her forehead. Are you blind? Is it that obvious?" "Obvious." His voice jumped an octave. "It's painfully obvious. I've known Stella for over a year. You think she's ever given me this many free drinks? Not to mention, you've only been coming here for a few weeks, and she's already personally made you her special hangover cure soup. She barely cooks for anyone. She guards those recipes like a dragon." Alex pointed at me, his expression a mix of challenge and exasperation. "Don't you dare tell me there's nothing going on here." I looked down, lifted my glass. The cold liquid slid down my throat, but did nothing to extinguish the ashes in my heart. I'm not interested in loving anyone again. The hell with love. Alex slammed his hand on the table, making the bottles rattle. "You're going to become a monk for the rest of your life over one woman who wasn't worth it? Open your eyes, man. There's a whole world out there waiting for you. When fate comes knocking, you grab it by the balls." He was determined to play matchmaker, to drag me out of my dark past for good. The next day, Alex insisted we go to a new Japanese yakitori place that had just opened. But the moment I pushed aside the curtain at the entrance, I froze. Under the warm, dim lights, Stella was sitting at the bar. She looked up when I came in, her eyes widening in surprise for a second before curving into a beautiful smile. She raised her glass to me, a playful glint in her eyes. "Looks like you got invited too." I glanced over at Alex, who had already found a table and was frantically gesturing for me to join them. I nodded helplessly. "Yeah, good," she said, putting down her glass. Her voice held a note of relief. "I should probably thank him. I've been wanting to ask you to dinner for a while, but I couldn't find a good excuse." Her eyes sparkled with genuine excitement. "The yakitori here is to die for. I promise you, once you taste it, you'll never forget it." She naturally pulled out the seat next to her for me, greeting the chef like an old friend and ordering a few of their signature skewers for me. Sitting with her was comfortable, She had a way of catching every conversational thread, making you feel like you were truly being listened to. Her subtle thoughtfulness was like a gentle spring breeze, silently melting the ice in my frozen heart. Just as I was starting to relax, ready to try the Tadai for yakitori, I caught a glimpse of a familiar, sickeningly familiar figure out of the corner of my eye. It was Julian Vance. My breath hitched. But the person sitting next to him wasn't the tear-stained Chloe I had expected. It was a woman in her 50s, dripping with jewels, impeccably maintained. A beautiful, wealthy older woman. Her hand was resting intimately on Julian's shoulder, and he was leaning in, smiling with a practiced, fawning charm. My gaze was frozen in place. Stella noticed my stiffness and followed my line of sight. Her eyes paused for a moment before she looked back at me, asking softly, "Do you know him?" It took me a few seconds to push down the turmoil of emotions. 1,000 complicated words flashed through my mind. In the end, I managed only two. "Not really." Stella looked away, a hint of coldness in her voice. "It's probably for the best if you don't." My heart skipped a beat, a sense of foreboding washing over me. "What do you mean? You sound like there's a story there." Stella hesitated, as if weighing her words. I assured her, "You can tell me. I'm not a gossip." Only then did she hand me a freshly grilled chicken meatball skewer. The aroma was incredible, but what she said next made my blood run cold. "See that woman across from him?" I nodded. "Her name is Margot. In the Crestwood underworld, her husband is known as Dino." She paused, then dropped a bombshell. "Julian Vance used to be her boy toy." My pupils contracted. "How do you know that?" Stella explained nonchalantly. "My bar gets all kinds of people. When someone gets out of line, it's usually Dino's guys who handle it for me. You're in the same circles long enough, you hear things. Besides," she added, "it was a huge scandal back in the day." My voice was a little dry. "How so?" Julian was still in college when Margot took an interest in him. Officially, he was her assistant. She smiled knowingly, the meaning clear. Later, he used her money and connections to get a job at the biggest firm in the city, Apex Global. In 1 year, just 1 year, he climbed an executive position. Stella's eyes flashed with undisguised contempt. Of course, Margot alone wasn't enough. His face was his golden ticket. On his way up, who knows how many rich women he slept with to get where he is today. Once he was secure, he kicked Margot, his biggest stepping stone, to the curb. That's why everyone in those circles says Julian Vance is the kind of person you can't trust. A snake in the grass. He'll use any means necessary to get ahead. Anyone who gets involved with him gets devoured. Not even the bones are left. After she finished, Stella's tone suddenly shifted. But Stella's tone changed, the contempt fading and replaced by a cold complexity. But what people don't know, what they didn't see, was how he took that first step. In the beginning, it wasn't his choice. My heart skipped a beat. Margot is the kind of woman who gets what she wants. Back then, Julian was just a broke college kid whose family had lost everything. He was desperate. Her voice was quiet, but sharp as a shard of ice. "I heard she used some unsavory methods. Forced herself on him. That face of his was born to attract trouble. It's a shame. What happened after?" My own voice was tight. "He tried to go to the police," Stella said with a cold, mirthless laugh. "You can imagine how that went. A broke kid trying to press charges against the wife of a mob boss like Dino. He got beaten up, thrown in an alley, and had a check tossed at his face. It was hush money, and a contract. After that, he changed completely. He started playing the part of Margot's willing lover, swallowing all his pride, finding new ways to please her." My mind buzzed. When was this? About 5 years ago. 5 years ago. The words hit me like a lightning strike. That was the year Julian's parents died in a car crash, and his family's business was carved up by his greedy uncles. The golden boy had become a pariah overnight. I remembered him gambling away what little money he had left, his eyes bloodshot with desperation. I remembered him begging for loans, the humiliation he endured. And then, he just disappeared. When he reappeared, he was back to being the free-spending playboy, more extravagant than ever before. So that's what happened. The money that resurrected him had been bought with his body. Stella's sharp gaze fell on my face, her eyes filled with curiosity. "Why? You seem very interested in him." I flinched as if I'd been pricked by a needle, snapping back to reality. I quickly shoved a piece of chicken into my mouth. The hot sauce burned my tongue, but I barely felt it. Why would I be interested in a guy? I mumbled through the food. "Just curious about the gossip, that's all." I quickly changed the subject. She gave me a long, searching look, but didn't press further. 11 the days I spent with Stella were like a ray of sunshine on a rainy day, comfortable and carefree. But the shadows never really went away. Chloe's harassment never stopped. The email I sent to her boss had lit a fuse. Overnight, the scandal of her and Julian exploded. It was everywhere: work group chats, social media, even the local gossip forums. Someone compiled all the evidence into a detailed presentation, analyzing their group activities with clinical precision. The post was pinned to the top of the forum, the headline a lurid, screaming red. The comments below peeled away her reputation layer by layer, nailing her to a public pillar of shame. The fallout was too great. To protect its reputation, Apex Global had to cut its losses. She was fired. Just like that. I thought that being stripped of her glamorous career, crashing and burning so spectacularly, would give her a sense of shame, that she would finally disappear from my life. I had underestimated her shamelessness. On my birthday, the night was perfect. I booked a private room at Stella's bar to celebrate with a few friends. The lights were low, the music was smooth, and I had almost managed to forget Chloe even existed. But that good mood shattered the moment I got back to my apartment building. Chloe was standing in the shadows of an old oak tree. In her left hand, she held a cake. In her right, a wrap gift. Her pathetic, pitiful expression just made my stomach turn. "Liam," she began, her voice thick with a carefully constructed sob. My friend next to me immediately lost it, rolling his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. "Chloe, you have the nerve to show your face here." He stepped in front of me, his voice dripping with disgust. "Your whole sordid story is all over the internet. Do you even know what the word shame means? If you harass Liam again, I swear to God I'll call the cops." Another friend chimed in. "Your skin is thicker than a brick wall. Now that your precious Julian got tired of you and kicked you to the curb, you come running back to Liam? What do you think he is, a recycling bin?" Recycling bin. The words were a ringing slap across Chloe's face. Her expression went from white to red to a sickly green. Her fingers tightened around the cake box, so hard her knuckles turned white. She looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday," she stammered, trying to defend herself. I watched her clumsy performance with cold eyes and finally spoke. My voice was calm, but sharp as ice. "Chloe," I said, shaking my head, "cut the crap. It's disgusting. We broke up a long time ago." I took a step forward, my gaze locking onto her evasive eyes. I said, enunciating every word, "Instead of putting on a show here, you should go back to your precious Julian. After all, you love him the most, right?" A crisp set of footsteps approached through the night air. Just then, Stella arrived. The scene was absurdly comical. She and Chloe were a mirror image of each other. A cake in the left hand, a gift in the right. The only difference was that Stella's cake looked like a work of art, while Chloe's looked like a cheap, last-minute purchase from a corner store. The two women met under the dappled light of the old oak tree, their gazes clashing in mid-air, a silent, fiery battle. The air seemed to freeze. After a moment, Stella broke the silence. She tilted her chin up, looking at me with a playful glint in her eyes. "And who might this be?" Almost simultaneously, Chloe's sharp gaze shot towards her. "Who is she?" I looked at Stella and said calmly, "This is Chloe." Then, I turned to Chloe, looking at her face, which was twisted with jealousy and resentment. A thought, one that surprised even me, slipped out. "This is my girlfriend." The moment the words left my mouth, all three of us, including myself, froze. The surprise in Stella's eyes was fleeting, replaced by a knowing smile. She was a natural actress. In the next second, she strode to my side, her warm arm wrapping around my shoulders with an undeniable force, pulling me closer. A possessive, intimate gesture. She looked down at Chloe, her voice sweet and cold. "Miss, I'm going to have to ask you to stop harassing my boyfriend, or things will get unpleasant." That word, boyfriend, was the spark that ignited Chloe's fuse. Her pale face flushed a deep red, her pretty eyes filled with a hateful rage. "Get your filthy hands off him," she shrieked. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms, looking like she was about to launch herself at Stella. But Stella just laughed, the arm around my shoulders tightening. "Why would I do that?" she asked, tilting her head, her posture lazy and provocative. "He's my boyfriend. I have every right to hold him." I looked at Chloe's face, contorted with rage, and finally spoke again, my voice devoid of any warmth. "Chloe, how can you still have a nerve to chase after me?" My gaze was like an icicle, pinning her in place. "Was it because the man you were dying for got tired of playing with you, kicked you to the curb, and now you've come crawling back to the sucker?" "No, that's not it." She was about to cry again, tears welling up in her eyes, as if she were the victim of some great injustice. The sight just made me sick. I had no more patience for her act. I lunged forward and snatched the cheap cake and gift from her hands. Then, I turned and, without a moment's hesitation, threw them both into the nearby trash can. The cake smashed into a pathetic mess, the gift box crushed and misshapen, just like her life. My patience was gone. Every word was squeezed through gritted teeth. Chloe, I want you to get as far away from me as possible, and I never want to see you again. My gaze shifted from her to Stella beside me, my arm tightening around her instinctively. I have a new life now, so please stop bothering me. The warning in my voice was unmistakable. If you continue to harass me, I won't hesitate to let you cool off in a police station. With that, I didn't look at her pale, shocked face again. With Stella on my arm, surrounded by my friends, I turned and walked into the building without looking back. The heavy door closed, shutting her and my ugly past out for good. From my apartment window, I looked down like a detached observer. The dim streetlight stretched Chloe's shadow long and thin, like a woman abandoned by the world. She finally left, her silhouette lonely and pitiful. But I felt nothing, just two words echoing in my mind. She deserved it. So, a warm, amused voice whispered by my ear. Stella had sidled up next to me, her red lips almost touching my ear. Am I really your girlfriend now? I stiffened, turned to put a little space between us. That was a heat-of-the-moment thing. I was just using you as a shield. I'm sorry. But Stella pressed closer again, her long fingers tracing circles on my chest. A shield? She purred, her eyes like silk. Why don't we just make it official? She gave me a playful wink, her voice sweet and intoxicating. Stella, am beautiful, have a great body, and I'm a fantastic investment. You won't regret it. Boyfriend. She drew out the last word, the sound like a feather brushing against my heart. My ears grew hot. I awkwardly turned away, grabbing the exquisite cake to cover my fluster. Okay, just let me think about it. I fumbled with the candles, my movements clumsy. The flames flickered to life, illuminating her smiling eyes in the dim room. I closed my eyes, my hands clasped together. I wish that Liam, will have a peaceful and prosperous life from now on. I wish that Liam will never, ever look back. That night, to celebrate, Stella threw a party. She booked a VIP section at the most exclusive club in Crestwood, Crimson. The music was deafening, the lights were a dizzying kaleidoscope, and the air was thick with the scent of alcohol and hormones. I had hoped the chaos would help me finally turn a page, but I never, ever expected to run into Julian Vance there. 12, he was surrounded by a group of stunning women, holding court in a lavish booth, looking like the king of the world. Suddenly, the ornate doors of the club were kicked open. A burly, brutish man, flanked by several thuggish-looking cronies, stormed in. There's the pretty boy, the man roared, his voice like thunder. He pointed at Julian, his eyes burning with murderous rage. You scammed my wife out of her money, and you had the balls to cheat on me. I'm going to end you tonight. The scene descended into chaos. Someone grabbed Julian's head and slammed it against the hard edge of the table, over and over. The other thugs held him down, their fists raining down on him with sickening thuds. His handsome, arrogant face was instantly covered in blood, swollen and unrecognizable. He was a pathetic wreck. The leader spat on the floor and gave his men a vicious order. This pretty boy likes to party, right? Give him strong stuff and throw him in a room full of men. He grinned, a truly cruel smile. Since he loves women so much, let's see how he likes the taste of men. The thugs laughed, hoisting the half-conscious Julian up to drag him out. My friends were terrified. One of them stammered, Liam, what the hell is going on? Stella leaned in close, her voice a low whisper in my ear. That's Margot's husband, Dino. He's a nasty piece of work, known for his creative methods of torture. Julian, he might not make it through the night. I watched the whole ugly scene unfold with a cold, detached expression. Then, I turned to Stella, my voice flat. You have connections at the police department, right? I gave a humorless smile, my eyes devoid of any warmth. Assault and battery like this. That's jail time, isn't it? Stella, sharp as ever, understood immediately. A flicker of amusement crossed her face before she made a call. Soon, several plainclothes officers stormed the club. When they brought Julian out from the back alley, he was completely naked. The insides of his thighs were a bloody mess. It was a gruesome sight. His face was ashen. As they loaded him onto the ambulance, he saw me. His eyes, once so full of life and arrogance, were now filled with nothing but desperation and a silent plea. I simply looked away, not even giving him a second glance. I thought that was the end of it. I never expected that a month later, Julian Vance would show up my door. He was thinner, his face gaunt, with dark circles under his eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. His once perfect face now bore a few faint scars. He had a cigarette between his fingers, the red tip glowing in the dim hallway. Not gonna invite me in? He asked, his voice rough. I leaned against the doorframe, a cold smile on my lips. What do you think? He fell silent, pressing the cigarette against the wall until the ember died with a sizzle. Thanks for what you did at the club. I didn't save you, I said immediately. Yes, you did, he insisted, his gaze intense and complicated. I was getting annoyed. I just didn't want things to get messy. Violence is for idiots. Let the law handle it. It's cleaner. He let out a self-deprecating laugh. Do you know why Dino hates me so much? He asked, as if telling someone else's story. Because not only did I sleep with his wife, I also scammed her out of the money she was saving to buy their son a house. I raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. Oh, I thought you were forced into it. The smile vanished from his face. He looked away, embarrassed. You actually believe that crap. I was done playing games. Is there anything else? If not, we don't need to see each other ever again. He gripped the extinguished cigarette, his knuckles white. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself. Liam, I want to apologize to you for what happened with you and Chloe. I was wrong. He paused, his voice laced with a fabricated vulnerability. You probably won't believe me, but growing up beside my parents, the only person who was ever truly good to me was Chloe. When you're stuck in a cold, dark pit for so long, you can't help but reach for any bit of light, any warmth you can find. I'm really so sorry I hurt you. If he had said this to anyone else, they might have believed him. But I just looked at him, my heart perfectly still, almost wanting to laugh. Warmth. I scoffed, my words like knives cutting through his facade. You strung her along, leading her on. You took her to those disgusting parties, let her participate in those orgies. Julian, you call that reaching for warmth. You just treated her like a new, obedient toy. My voice was quiet, but every word was a fatal blow. A person like you. Do you even have a heart? His face went pale. His lips moved, but no words came out. I had lost all patience. Are you done with your bullshit? Get out. To my surprise, he didn't get angry. The light in his eyes just died, but he still wouldn't give up. You know, Chloe doesn't love me anymore, he said, his voice hoarse with a strange self-mockery. She was just used to depending on me, like a child who can't let go of a piece of candy. But for these past 5 years, the person who was really there for her, who gave her warmth, was you. His eyes locked on mine, as if revealing a world-shattering secret. Liam, she fell in love with you. She just realized it too late. After you broke up, she came to me, crying her eyes out, so devastated I thought she was going to pass out. He described the scene, trying to evoke my pity. She said she finally understood what it felt like to truly love someone, and it was nothing like what she felt for me. She said she had lost you for good, that she couldn't go on, that she wanted to die. He leaned closer, his voice urgent. Liam, there was a real misunderstanding between you two. I couldn't listen to any more of it. His pathetic performance of deep feeling was making me sick. I cut him off without mercy. There was no misunderstanding. My voice was like an icicle. When you two were screwing in the same bed, did you ever stop to think that was a betrayal? No, you were probably too busy having the time of your lives. Betrayal is betrayal, I said, staring at his now ashen face, my words twisting the knife. No matter how many pretty excuses you make for it, you can't hide the filth underneath. Don't use love as an excuse, I sneered. You talk about your love as if it's something noble. You hurt me. That's a fact, and I will never forgive you. Everyone has their own struggles in life, I said, a cold smile on my lips. But you had no right to drag me down with you. Why should I have to pay for your pain? Julian opened his mouth to say something else, but nothing came out. I didn't give him another chance. Slam! I slammed the door with all my strength. The loud bang shut out the pathetic man in the hallway, and it shut out my past for good. Nothing he could say would ever change anything. I would never, ever go back. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hateful. Time had worn away those intense emotions. But I would never forgive them. That was the one lesson I had learned from 5 years of my life. I wasn't about to forget it.